Hi everyone, this is Courtney from Ruby Red Farm. Today we're going to talk through how realistic it is to run a homestead on the side while you both work full time. So my husband and I have lived on our 10-acre homestead here in East Central Indiana for about 7 years, but we've only been farming for about 3. My husband is a project manager, he has a mechanical engineering background, and I'm a physical therapist. And so at this point, I work about 30 to 35 hours a week, and he works about 45 to 50 hours a week outside of the home. So you may be wondering, how do we make all of this work? Aside from a little bit of help from my niece and from our kiddos, pretty much me and my husband do all the work. So today, let me go through and explain all the different things that we've been able to produce from our farm while just doing it part-time. Do me a favor though, guys, make sure to hit like and subscribe. We appreciate you watching. One of the first things that we decided to dive in and produce here on our farm was our garden. So we live in Zone 6A. Our growing season is roughly Mother's Day through mid-October. We just recently had our first frost here. So on that 3/4 acre garden, we raise all the fan favorites. We raise tomatoes, carrots, potatoes, green beans, cabbage, lettuce. Pretty much anything will grow here in Indiana, but of course some things grow better than others. We try to stick with the things that naturally grow well here. The garden admittedly takes up a ton of time. We end up spending a lot of hours out there after work in the evenings during the peak growing season, but we did make it work with that 3/4 acre garden. So the second thing we're able to produce here on our farm is hogs. So we raised 8 pigs altogether this year. We typically get them as piglets, just freshly weaned from an auction. We do not farrow piglets, and doing it that way where we just keep them as feeders is about the only way this would work. We take the winters off from raising hogs, and that saves us a lot of time, but also just gives us that mental break that we need from pigs. So we end up raising them for about 6 months total, and in that amount of time they get up to about 300 pounds, and we sell them various ways. Nice thing about hogs is they are pasture raised here, and it's very simple setup with 2 strands of wire. And if you have any amount of pasture that you can kind of rotate them through, it's a very doable animal as a beginner when it comes to homesteading, even if you do work outside of the home. One of the other nice things about pigs is that they're relatively low time consumption animals. All you got to do is check on them a couple times a day, make sure they have feed and water, and you're good to go. The other animal we got here as beginners while working outside of the home are laying hens. So we started with about 25 laying hens, that quickly jumped to 75, and at this point we're up to 250 laying hens. Hens, surprisingly, are actually our most time-consuming animal. We get the eggs in the evenings, and then we do have to wash and package those eggs. That's what ends up taking so much time. I would say we spend about a half hour per day total on the chickens. If we need to wait and wash the eggs the next day, we can. But a half hour a day is our biggest time chunk when it comes to the animals that we take care of. In my opinion, though, it's more than worth it. We absolutely love having laying hens. Very, very good rookie animal to get if you're just starting your farm. Another animal that we added more recently is turkeys. So we raised about 25 turkeys this year. We'll probably lower that to more like 10 to 15 turkeys next year. But turkeys, again, are a relatively hands-off kind of an animal. We raise them pasture raised, and so we move their setup about every 2 weeks or so now that we have them with the netting around. In general, that's a twice a day chores kind of an animal. No more than 5 minutes spent on our turkeys most days. Meat chickens are one of our most profitable items. In fact, probably our most profitable. We raised 600 meat birds this year with us both working. We did that in about 7 different batches where we stacked them timing-wise just right. We get them out on pasture then at about 4 to 5 weeks old. And once they get big enough, then we put the netting out for them as well. We move the chicken tractor every day until we get that netting up, and then we move it about once a week. Meat chickens as well are just a twice a day chores kind of an animal. We got to make sure they have plenty of feed, and then we typically end up feeding and watering them in the evenings. We do have one extra thing with the meat chickens and the turkeys is that we need to make sure they all get in at night once we open them up to that netting. The meat birds are a little stubborn about this, but once we get them all sealed up and cover them with the tarp, we know they're safe from those cold temperatures here in the fall months. So those are all the different operations that we're running right now. In general, our day ends up looking like my husband feeding the birds in the morning. I come out and let those birds out once I'm up and about to leave for work. I also take care of the dogs and the garage animals in the morning. So we both have about 10 minutes worth of chores in the morning to do. In the evenings then, whoever gets home from work first, which is typically me, will get started on the chores. I like to go out and gather the eggs first, make sure everybody's good on food and water out there, then move on and I'll take care of all of our meat poultry. So I'll take care of the meat chickens, take care of the turkeys, refill their waters and make sure kind of I have an idea of when everybody's going to need to be moved next. Go out, make sure I feed the pigs, make sure they have water as well. And then if it is a gardening month, then I'm out into the garden usually right after dinner time. At nighttime then, as soon as the sun goes down, my husband and I will kind of take turns, but usually we'll try to tag team, go out, make sure the last of the laying hens are put away for the day, and also make sure those meat chickens and the turkeys are in their pens. Takes about 5 minutes worth of work total most nights, but it is one more thing we got to do right before bed. So in general, on a typical day, we spend about an hour to an hour and a half worth of time doing chores. And again, that's on top of our regular work hours. We then reserve a lot of the bigger tasks for the weekends. So we'll refill the chickens' feeders on the weekends. We will move the hens every other week or so, depending on the time of year. We'll refill the pig water. We'll move the meat chickens if we need to. All of that gets saved for the weekends. And I would say using your weekends for those big chores is one of the best ways that we've made this work with us both working still. For us then, when it comes to selling all of these items, because we raise a lot of this for ourselves, but of course we're trying to sell it. We do offer kind of private appointments. We have probably 4 or 5 different customers that come on a regular basis just in the evenings. We'll just say, hey, we'll be home Thursday night. And they'll swing in and pick up then. We, of course, though, sell at a farmer's market. And so we sell at a Saturday evening farmer's market right now. That market's ending soon. And so then it'll be back to just appointments from the house. We have an egg fridge as well, self-serve egg fridge. The greater majority of our customers just want eggs. So making that hands-off was a huge benefit for us to be able to make this work with us both working outside of the home. I cannot recommend enough having an egg stand or an egg fridge available for your customers. It was a huge time saver and well worth the investment for the fridge. So here are a few tips to make this work if you're thinking about starting a homestead. One of the first things I recommend is to limit the number of hobbies that you have. We are from this town. We really enjoy going to the local sporting events because we have family members, but we've kind of had to decide we can only go to one football game, one basketball game per season, for example. On top of that, my husband's a big car guy. He's kind of had to put that to the side a little bit. I have my own hobbies that I enjoy, and we've all had to kind of just decide now that farming is our hobby. Not saying you can't ever have any fun, but you definitely want to set your priorities right if you're going to go into the farming world. Another way we make this work is that we rarely eat out. Eating out is just really expensive. And on top of that, it's really time consuming. If I make dinner here all in, cooking the dinner and eating, it's probably only going to take an hour. Whereas if we drive to our next closest big city, don't know if I would call it big, but our next big town is about 20-minute drive, and then you got to wait and you got to eat, and it ends up being about a 2 to 2.5 hour ordeal and 3 times as expensive. So at this point, eating out is just not a high priority for us. We certainly enjoy it and we do for special occasions, but we're not doing it every weekend. Another way we make this work is when we have errands to run, we run them when we're already out. So we will run on our lunch breaks quite a bit. We will run on our way home from work, because even though I know it's only a 10-minute drive to the farm store, that still was a 20-minute round trip that I could have saved if I just got those things on the way home instead. So it's silly, but it really does add up by the end of the week, especially with all the different things we end up needing in a given week. Another big way we make this work is we rarely watch TV during the summer, guys. So we will get into a show every now and then, but it's almost always in the fall and winter time. We rarely watch TV during the year except for maybe 20 minutes to kind of wind down at the end of a long day. TV is just not a big enough priority for us to be wasting that much time on it. And I'm not saying you can't have a few shows that you enjoy, but we joke about it. If we watch a movie, it takes us 3 nights to watch it because we only have the attention span for about 45 minutes before we're bored. We've got things we need to get done. The other main way that we make this work is we just, again, really spend our weekends doing all of the big chores. We're spending the entire weekend essentially working. We have it kind of planned out of what we're going to do. Sometimes we'll tackle a task together. Sometimes we divide and conquer. But aside from our Sunday morning rest where we go to church and really take it easy on Sunday mornings, we're pretty much working the entire weekend to make sure that we keep this operation running smoothly and keeping our animals well cared for. Another way to make this work is make sure you're sharing the load. You want to make sure both spouses really enjoy this. And while we kind of have different things that we enjoy, for example, I enjoy the garden more, he enjoys more of the tinkering and the mechanical part of it, we both enjoy all of it to an extent and are willing to help. Some nights, one of us just needs a day off. And, for example, I'll do all the chores or he'll do all the chores and I can just make dinner. Or we can just kind of take it easy for the night. Sharing the load and being able to recognize that the other person needs a break is hugely important when it comes to avoiding burnout when it comes to farming. All in all, guys, we love what we do. We absolutely love being able to raise so much of our own food, and this has become our absolute favorite hobby at this point. Just know that it is very doable to chase your dreams while still working outside of the home. This was Courtney from Ruby Red Farm. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.